This is Advanced Math, Unit 9, Lesson 7. All equations. All right. Number 1 is a review from the last lesson we did, and it is on the test. The reason I bring that up is because kids often miss this one, so you want to make sure this is one you go back and study. Okay, find all roots, all means real and imaginary, of f of x equals x to the fourth plus 8x cubed plus 15x squared minus 32x minus 76. If negative 4 plus root 3i is one root. All right, they've given you one root. There's a total of 4 because the degree is 4. So how do we use this to find the other roots? Okay, first off, we don't know how to work with this the way it is. We definitely cannot use synthetic, and that's where kids mess up. Because when we're looking for roots, we typically use synthetic division, but we can't on this one because there's no way to use it with this particular root. So the best we can do is set it equal to x and get everything over to the other side and see what happens. All right, at the 4. And then we square both sides. And when you square the x plus 4, you get x squared plus 8x plus 16. You can write it out twice and double distribute. When you square the root 3, that's just 3. And then I to the second is I squared. Remembering that I squared is negative 1. This gives you negative 3. Move it over to the other side. X squared plus 8x plus 19 equals 0. Now, keep in mind, this is only part of the factors. I'm looking for the rest of the factors. Why do I need the other factors? So that I can solve them and find the other roots. What this means here is, I'll write it lightly up here, f of x equals, in factored form would be x squared plus 8x plus 19 blank, and there might be another bubble. I'm not sure if it's factorable or not, but it looks something like this. Now, I know if I solve this one, I'd end up with this root, and I need to know what this factor is so that I can find the other roots. Does that make sense? All right, so the only way we can do it, because I can't use synthetic with given this root, I have to do long division. And that's where kids mess up, because they don't recognize that this is a long division type problem. All right, so I'm going to divide x squared plus 8x plus 19 into this original problem. X to the fourth plus 8x cubed plus 15x squared minus 32x minus 76. Now, why are we doing this? To find the other factors. They didn't ask us for factors, but why do I need the other factors? So I can solve it and then find the roots. Why are we doing long division? If I give you the number 32 and tell you that 8 is a factor, and you divide 32 by 8, you would end up with another factor. And remembering, if 8 is a factor, your remainder should be 0. So this was the one we know. We're looking for this one, and that's what we're doing now. And our remainder should end up being 0. All right, x squared times x squared would give me x to the fourth, distribute, plus 8x cubed, distribute, plus 19x squared. And then we have to subtract everything, subtract, 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 gone. If anything else reduces or cancels out, it's fine. The first one definitely should. Anything else is a bonus. This piece does not cross out. It's negative 4x squared. Then I'm going to drop the negative 32x as well as the minus 76 because I have a trinomial here. All right, x squared times what is negative 4x squared? That would be negative 4. distribute negative 4x squared excuse me, and then negative 4 times 8 is negative 32, and there's an x, and then negative 4 times 19 is negative 76. And then we go through and change our signs, change, and change, and just like we said earlier, the remainder should be 0. So this last bubble piece, you could write it like this, x plus 2, x minus 2. You don't have to. You could write it as x squared minus 4. Technically, this part is not even really important. I'm just trying to show you guys that the reason we did this is to find the factors so that we can solve and find the roots. Again, we did all this to find the factors. I knew this one already. That one was given to us. To find the remaining factors so I can find the remaining roots, the remaining solutions. X equals positive and negative 2. If you put 2 comma negative 2, that is fine. Comma. And now here's where kids mess up. Negative 4 plus root 3i. And they say that this is their solution. Now you would get this wrong if you did. The reason is this is one solution, this is 2, that makes a total of 3, and I should have 4. 4 solutions, but I only have 1, 2, 3. And this is because of the conjugate root theorem. Remember the conjugate root theorem where if you have a radical or an I as a solution, its conjugate is also going to be a solution. So I should have negative 4 plus or minus root 3i. Now I didn't bring that up earlier, technically I should have, but I waited just to see if any of you guys would have caught it on your own, and if you did, good job. If not, make sure you remember this. Now let's say you did catch it on your own and you put it in your work, would that change your answer? It would not, because when you square a positive or a negative, it's still going to come out to be a positive. So if you forget it and you do all the work, you're going to end up in the right place, the right answer, but at the end you'd have to remember, if you forgot it at the beginning, you'd have to remember it's the conjugate, plus or minus. So just double check. Degree is 4. I should have 4 solutions. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Next problem. Number 2. Write a 4th degree polynomial with roots equaling 1/2, the multiplicity is 2, and 6 with the multiplicity being 2, and a y-intercept equaling negative 4. Okay, now typically they haven't given us a y-intercept. They just gave us some roots and we wrote an equation. If they do that, that's fine. If they ever give you a y-intercept or an ordered pair, you'll need to remember you need to find A. All right, so if they give you a y-intercept or a point, you need to find your A value. You need to find your A value. All right, what that means is when I write my equation, y equals, I'm going to put an A there. How do I know when to put an A? When they give me a point or a y-intercept, because a y-intercept is a point in disguise. Okay, y equals A, parentheses, parentheses. I know they're both going to be squared because the multiplicity is 2. And because it's a 4th degree, that makes sense. There's 2 here, there's 2 here. They're both double roots, making a degree of 4. Okay, I'm going to do this one first. X minus 6, only because that one's easier. On this one, you don't have to write this down yet. If you write this, that is okay. That's not the way I'm going to work it out. But if you do, that's okay. I will tell you right now, if you do it that way, your A will be a little bit harder to find, not much, but still doable. So I will give you that answer at the end if you do work it out that way. If you don't, the way I'd like you to do it, some of you can do it in your head. I'm just going to do it over here really quick. X equals 1/2, kind of like I did here. X equals 6 and subtracted over x minus 6 equals 0. That's one factor. Here, instead of subtracting over, I multiply both sides by 2. 2x equals 1, and then subtract over. 2x minus 1 equals 0. Oh, excuse me. All right, so 2x minus 1. If I were to solve these, I get x equals 6. That's there. If I were to add 1, divide by 2, I'd get x equals 1/2, multiplicity of 2. All right, now I'm going to plug 0. Well, actually, how do I write this as an ordered pair? Don't forget y-intercept, x is always 0, 0, comma, -4. It won't always be a y-intercept that they give you, but when it is, 0, -4. Always, because if you were to plot that point, it would be a y-intercept. All right, so plug in -4 for y. I don't know a. 2 blank minus 1 squared, blank minus 6 squared. And what do I plug in for all of my x's? I plug in 0, 0, 0. That's x, that's y. All right, and then I get -4 equals a parentheses 2 times 0 is 0, minus 1 is -1 squared, 0 minus 6 is -6 squared, -4 equals a, -1 times -1 is 1, -6 times -6 is 36. I'm just going to write this as 36a, and then solve for a, divide both sides by 36. 36 is gone. A equals -1 over 9 is what you get when you reduce. And then what you're going to do is plug it back in here, and that's going to be your answer. So it's going to look like this. Y equals A, which is -1/9, not 1/2, -1/9, parentheses, 2x minus 1 squared, parentheses, x minus 6 squared. And that there is your final answer. The A is -1/9. This was our equation we came up with earlier when we didn't know what A was. We went back there and plugged the A in. That's our final answer. If you didn't put 2x minus 1 and you put 1/2, you would have ended up with this. Y equals -4/9, parentheses, x minus 1/2 squared, x minus 6 squared. So your answer will end up different, but it's still correct. There's multiple right answers here. On the test, if you do it this way, that's perfectly fine. I have my answer key worked out with that, so with this type of solution as well. Totally up to you. If you did do it this way and you didn't get -4/9, you may want to retry it or come to me with questions. All right, moving on. Number 3, write a 4th degree equation with roots equaling 3 parentheses m equals 2, comma 1/2, comma -3, and f of 1 equals 2. All right, 4th degree polynomial. Here's 1, 2. This one counts as a double, so there's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What the heck does this mean? It's not an intercept. It's a point, just like an intercept is, but the point is 1, 2. Remember what I said earlier, it won't always be an x-intercept. I'm sorry, a y-intercept is what I meant to say. It will not always be a y-intercept. It may just be a regular old order pair. It's still a point. You can still plug in x. You can still plug in y. All right, so let's try this. Y equals A. We know we're looking for A because they gave us an ordered pair, a point, parentheses, x minus 3, quantity squared. I did this one for you earlier, 2x minus 1. You set x equal to 1/2, multiply and subtract. And I don't put a square there because the multiplicity is 1, and x plus 3. Again, no squared. 2, 3, 4, degree 4. I'm going to plug that point in. Y is 2, A I don't know. Blank minus 3 squared, 2 times blank minus 1, and then blank plus 3. And what do I plug into all the blanks where the x used to be? we're going to plug in x value, which is 1. 1, 1, 1. 2 equals a parentheses 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Square that, it's 4. Parentheses 2 times 1 minus 1 is 1. And then 1 plus 3 is 4. All right, so I have 2 equals 16a. Divide both sides by 16. A equals 1/8. So sometimes A comes out to be positive, sometimes it comes out to be negative. All right, so I have y equals A, which is positive 1/8, parentheses, I'm coming right here, x minus 3 squared, parentheses, 2x minus 1, parentheses, x plus 3. If you didn't do it this way and you used 1/2, you would have ended up with y equals 1/4, parentheses, x minus 3 squared times x minus 1/2, and then x plus 3. You don't need both of these solutions. I really would hope you only do one. It's just some people leave it like this. If you do, that's perfectly fine. This would be your solution. If you did it the way I did it in class or with you guys here in notes, that's the answer that you would end up with there. All right, number 4, I'm going to give you a coordinate plane. All right, I'm going to make it a 7 right and 7 left. And I'm just going to mark this up here as 14. And I'm going to draw a graph. I'm going to put a dot there at -5. I'm going to put a dot here at 2 and a dot here at 7. Okay, so this is what the graph's going to look like. It's going to start low, come up, hit the y-intercept, come down to the positive 2 and bounce, come back up to the 7 and cross. And it ended low. And I want you to come up with this function. A few things you should recognize. It's ending up low, low, so we know it's going to be negative, and we know it's going to be even. Degree is going to be 2 or 4 or 6, and it's going to have a leading coefficient that's negative because it's low, low. All right, now from this information, I can get, just like I did up here, I can end up with my roots. My roots are -5, comma 2, and 2 has a multiplicity of 2 because it bounced, comma 7, and my y-intercept is 14, which means the ordered pair is 0, comma 14. Now this looks just like what we did on numbers 2 and 3. Okay, so now we're going to do just like we did then. Y equals A. We don't know what A is. If you do f of x, that's perfectly fine. X plus 5, x minus 2, quantity squared because it's a bounce, and then x minus 7, and we don't know what A is. We're going to look for it, and we do that by plugging in x and y. So I have 14 equals A parentheses blank plus 5 blank minus 2 squared, and then blank minus 7, and I plug zeros in for all of the x's. 14 equals A times 5 times 4 times -7. Do you guys see where that came from? 0 minus 2 is -2, squared is 4, 0 minus 7 is 7. 14 equals, is that -140A? 5 times 4 is 20. 20 times -7 is -140. Divide both sides by -140. And you can see there A is going to come out to be negative, the way we said it should be. Negative 1/10 is your A value. So you're going to use this to write it right there and write your final answer. So it looks like this: y equals negative 1/10 parentheses x plus 5 times x minus 2 quantity squared, and then x minus 7. Okay, so double check it. 2, 3, 4, that degree is 4, and it's negative, so it matches. We said it should have a degree that's even and negative. So it's degree 4, 2, 3, 4, which means it's high, high, or low, low. Negative means it's low, low, which did happen here. Oftentimes I'll have kids like put a plus something at the end. I'm not sure where they're getting that. They'll do all this and they'll put like plus 14. The y-intercept does not get added at the end. You have to do all this work, and the A value goes here. All right. Number 5. Write a cubic equation with roots -2. I'll write it up here. -2 and 4. Write a cubic equation with roots -2, 4. One of them is a double root with a y-intercept of 32. All right, I'm going to have you try this one on your own. You check it with me in class. I will tell you that there's 2 different possible solutions. Because it doesn't specify which one is a double root, you'll do one setup where -2 is the double root, solve for A. You'll do the other setup where 4 is the double root, and you solve for A. In both instances, this is your y-intercept, which means 0, 32 is your ordered pair. All right, 2 answers. Try it, and we'll come back and check in class. That's it for this lesson.